Yeah, ma'am. Sanjay.
Have you started?
Yes.
Come.
I was just introducing you, and I think you kind of sensed that. So you walked in at the right moment. I will start again. I was just telling them that I was part of a people notice that I launched a film magazine once before. It was for a newspaper, and I gave it a fairly healthy.
Now that Prerna just read out a short paragraph from a book, I think this is the right time that we all get a look at the book. So I request all our dignitaries to release the book.
Mobile.
I request the young
Up to me, how many months ago was it? About 6 months. Had we connected before that? No, that was actually the first time I had heard from you. I of course knew about you. I was fascinated about the work that I was doing and her keenness in conservation, and just heard how much she knew. And I was very intrigued to get to know her. I was keen to get to know her better. And she reached out to me and she said she was writing this book and she wondered whether I would endorse it. And she sent me the transcript.
And her yes was unconditional.
My yes was immediate and unconditional. And then I read the transcript and I was just blown away by her audacity. You know, she spoke about me taking a stand. I just can't believe that she has a stand that she takes that goes beyond the realm of how we take stands today. You know, even our stands are politically correct. Even our stands are in keeping with the sanctity of what perhaps the situation demands for us to take, or allows us the room to take. She dispels all those theories. She goes beyond the stretch of any stand ever taken. Because I think that very few people have the ability to be as fiercely honest as Prerna chooses to be. And at her own risk. You know, I think that every day, and I don't know her very well, but the sense that I get from reading her book and just interacting with her a lot more post-reading this book, because now I call her. Every time I'm exasperated, I call her. Every time I need advice, I call her. Every time I want a pointer in the right direction, I call her. And I'm so grateful for that, Prerna. I take full advantage of you.
It goes both ways.
But I don't want to lose my thought. I'm going to go right back to it. But what strikes me as amazing about Prerna is the fact that she has the audacity to be honest in a time where we are unwilling to be so, because I think denial serves us convenience. You know, it just gives us, perhaps denial sometimes buys us time and allows us to do the wrong that we're doing, or the wrong that we're seeing and letting it go back. But this honesty also, I feel, in many ways, is a driver of action, and it's something that will unshackle consciousness. It's something that will permeate into consciousness. This book made me angry. It made me very angry, but it also made me very grateful, because I don't think think I had ever, up until now, realized fully, with all my consciousness, what a great country we actually are. Because you know, when people throw statistics in our direction, and people say, you know, the world's largest number of tigers live in India, and the world's largest number of wild elephants live in India, or that the world's largest number of one-horned rhinos live in India. These are just numbers that we hear, and of course we appreciate it and we think it's a wonderful thing. But what we don't realize is that we are a miracle. We are a nation that is coexisting with some of the most beautiful creatures on the planet that are surviving and possibly even thriving in certain parts, despite the fact that they have so little space. They're sharing this country with the world's second largest population that's about to become the world's largest population. And that to me is fascinating. It truly is. So thank you, Prerna, for giving us courage, giving us anger, because we need it. Because I think that we've become very complacent and we're angry about all the wrong things. We need to channel and direct our anger for the right things, which is fighting for this shared planet, this coexistence, and the fact that we need to worship, revere, respect, and love this coexistence above everything else. You can clap to that because I know you're feeling it. I'm going to read a few excerpts from this book. I really hope that all of you grab a copy today and get as many people as you know to read it. Praveen, I really hope that you can get people in government to read this book. You know, people in legislation, people who walk the corridors of our present and who determine our future. Read this book because I think it's a huge eye-opener, but more than anything else, I think it's so educational. It will empower them to make better decisions and choices. As I know, it has you. You are an asset to Maharashtra. I know that you understand this umbilical link between ecology and economy very, very well, and I know you're guiding our Chief Minister as well as you can. He admitted himself in actually this year in the Sanctuary Nature Awards that he hadn't realized up until he became the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and he started working as he did with, I think, this gentleman sitting to my left, how deeply connected ecology and economy were. And I think this book really and truly, in all its sense, highlights that. So, Prerna, if you allow me. So, may I read a few excerpts? I'm actually going to read from the prologue because I think it's so important to understand why Prerna has written this book. This is my copy. I was wondering where my pumpkins went. I was like, magic happened, they disappeared. Okay. I simply had to share this, to break myths, expand our limited perception of beasts, and lure people into their mysterious, magical world. I have woven the nature of animals into the vanishing. I was also faced with the harsh reality of how imperiled India's wildlife is. It is ruthlessly exterminating animals, and habitat destruction and fragmentation is wiping out wildlife. It took a heartbreaking encounter with an orphan in North Bengal to comprehend the repercussions of slicing a forest into pieces. The calf would not have been about 2 years old, and one of its feet was shackled by chains as he shuffled after the other domesticated elephants employed by the forest department for patrolling the jungles and guarding tourists. Unlike some of its older compatriots, this one was born wild. His mother and one or two other members of the herd had been crushed in a train accident. The railway line links Siliguri to Alipurduar, West Bengal, through sanctuaries, forests and paths frequently used by the elephants. This little baby was found bellowing next to his dead mother, sucking bewilderedly at her lifeless steeds. He was a victim of mindless, unplanned, non-inclusive development, which does not factor in ecological considerations or consequences. In my mind, that little elephant calf became the face of what destruction of forests does to wildlife. This railway line has caused havoc to the resident elephant populations, with over 40 of the animals crushed by trains in the past decade. Along with other development activities such as roads, it has disrupted forests, pushing the distraught animals into the rapidly expanded urban areas that now engulf their jungles. This is increasing the confrontation between human and elephants. Such human-wildlife conflicts find space in the book, though I deconstruct this struggle to present wild animals living in peace with people. Conflict is man-made, a product of not just the large-scale annihilation of our habitats, but also of our conduct, or should I say misconduct, around wildlife. I find a seeming indifference to this wave of vanishings that we are witnessing, but the loss of a species is more than a statistic, a name on the list of the dead. Its extermination alters the planet irreversibly, taking with it the ecological role it played and the plants and insects and microorganisms whose survival is linked to it. Humans are not disassociated with extinction. We are connected to and dependent on other species. Saving the forest is crucial for the economy. India's forests serve as a carbon sink tank, neutralizing over 11% of India's total greenhouse emissions. If you were to put a monetary value, everybody loves to talk about money, this ecosystem service would amount to 6 lakh crores. Yet, we continue to clear, at a conservative estimate, no less than 135 hectares of forest a day, diverting it for various projects such as highways, mines, and cement factories. And we pitch their protection and that of a healthy environment against development. Simply put, if we lose the forests, we lose the fight against climate change. The conservation versus development debate has polarized society. If you're not with development in the way it is currently defined, then you are against the nation. If you defend a forest or would rather have tigers than a wider road, then you're anti-national. There is little attempt to factor in ecological considerations in the development agenda or balance both imperatives. More than anything else, it is this dangerous notion that conservation or a clean environment is not for the national good that compelled me to highlight the wildlife crisis. There is hope. There is time. Even though the clock is ticking away. The act of writing the book itself signatures hope. It is a rallying call. Only if we call the crisis, I have goosebumps, will we act to resolve it. Most of the stories I write carry this message and offer potential solutions. I'm not going to read more because I think this for me encapsulates practically everything that I found to be compelling, empowering, and revealing about this book. Thank you once again, Prerna, for having me and for writing this wonderful book. And thank you everyone for being here.
I think more trees in the city of Mumbai.
Which you see in Mumbai are older, more well grown than in many of the forests that they travel, which is true. And also trees which are not surviving, trees which are thriving, which have been locked into use.
But most of the forests like Kent, you don't find old trees. The old trees were cut.
And they are not even covered trees.
71.
Protected areas just cover 2 to 3% of our area. We are talking about the ordinary forests, which are 20% of the. Talking about those forests. But again, sir, I'll just take one more example from your book, which is about Sanjay Gandhi National Park. I think that provides a very good example. So we have the highest density of leopards there, one of the highest, and they don't live on the forest ecosystem. They live on our ecosystem. They live on what humans create in terms of waste, dogs, and that way. Today we have more tigers living outside parks, not on the natural ecosystem. They are living off what human beings cultivate in terms of crops, nilgai, and other cattle which eat that, and then the tiger. So this is a totally new pyramids which are coming up in terms of the density. It's not available anywhere else in the world. Very few parts. Indeed, there are more lands living off the human agrarian food chain than living on the natural food chain of the cheetal and sambal. So these are some very good things which you allude to in terms of the coexistence. But we need to think about our development model somewhere in this pattern. That's all I think.
The only thing I would like to point out here,
They seem to be adapting to us.
we refuse to adapt.
Yeah.
And the only flaw in this whole theory is that we need the forest ecosystems. Them adapting, thinking that leopards can survive in sugarcane because the forests which they inhabit give us, the water.
We need it more than they need it.
Yeah,
That's it.
we need it more than they need it. Right.
Here you are part.
Since I've become more deeply involved with conservation work. In fact, with the Wildlife Trust of India, we initiated something called Champions of Nature. Champions of Nature with the Wildlife Trust of India, where we've invited people from all spheres of communication. So if you're a graphic designer, you're an artist, a photographer, a painter, writer, any form of communication, come be a part of us, help us spread the message of conservation, and find entertaining and engaging ways of bringing the narrative of nature into mainstream communication. So this is something that we're working on, and you will in the coming months and years see a lot more visible communication building on the narrative of nature and reducing the gap between urban man and nature.
Very good.
I have to add here that I think our relationship with nature and our relationship with nature and our love for nature cannot be reduced by or disregarded by the professions that we seek. I really feel that no matter what, and this is something that my mentor and one of my real life heroes, Bidu Sehgal, always tells me, that it doesn't matter what field you belong to or what profession you're involved with. You can find a way to express your love for nature, your connection with nature, and help more people discover their connection with nature. Because the fact of the matter is that we are not apart from nature, we are a part of nature. And the only thing that really gives us a genuine sense of well-being is the shade of a tree. Anything. I mean, whether you're on a mountain or you're by the sea or you're under a tree or you're sitting by a waterfall or you're drinking water from a river. I don't know how many rivers we can drink water from anymore, but it does give you a complete sense of well-being. And that is something that all of us acknowledge and appreciate and connect unique spaces in the world has, sorry, that we do, but from a political standpoint, what?
Myself, forget it. I get
Okay, so Praveen, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Not an attack on any state government, but just an observation. I feel that when it comes to urban development and progress, we keep citing the example of places like Singapore and we want to do more like China. And what we don't imbibe from them is the very strict rules and the guidelines that they follow while improving urban development. So there's something that sets off the urban development which has a very, very pertinent ecological balance within it, right? So for example, there is a lot of green cover that is introduced to urban structures, say in cities, upcoming cities in Singapore and in China, where there are literally green walls being grown. And unfortunately, we have real estate developers in Mumbai who are putting plastic plants instead of real plants, and they call it green walls. It's deplorable, it's disgusting. But they're doing it, and they think it's beautiful. So, while I understand and appreciate, we all value the fact that we're a densely populated city and there is a need to improve the local transport and to make as much transportation, accessible to more people and not, allow people drive their own personal vehicles. We need to find a balance and find ways that will not allow us, the citizens, to wonder where our oxygen and our water is going to come from.
Good news, Prerna. So since we started the Rite of Passage campaign, the Giant Refugees, I actually had a tweet to the Chief Minister of Odisha, posted to my Twitter page for the last months, pinned to my. But apparently, because I spoke up and a few other people with me spoke up about this issue, the locals started understanding it better, and they have been going and speaking to the crowds, and there's been a change in the mindset that is being made. And as we speak, Sanctuary Nature Foundation is drafting a script for me in Korea that I'm going to be speaking into camera and sending to the chief, not to the chief minister, we're sending it to the local news bodies there, play it across all local channels and share it across WhatsApp and all these other.
Yeah, yes, we're here. Come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
So Rena, I can't believe I'm being made to sign your.
Of course, yeah. Thank you. That's your pen, right?
Only for autograph.
Okay, this is. Deepti? Yeah, hi. So good to log in. Okay, yeah. Visible right now because I'm not there. It's mine. But तो ये मेरी है. इसको मैं साइन नहीं करूँगी. ये मेरी किताब है. I think I'll give it to you.
Rite of Passage Giant Refugees.
Hashtag.
Diamonds Champions of Nature Wildlife Trust of India. No, there's no website. You can visit Wildlife
Thanks,
Trust.
yeah. Thanks for coming. Yeah, you're welcome.
Rena, just see what's happening
क्या कहना चाहेंगे मैम अपनी कॉन्सर्ट?
प्रेरणा बिंद्रा हमारे देश की सबसे वन ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट मोस्ट इफेक्टिव वॉइसेस ऑफ कंजर्वेशन है। उन्होंने ये जो किताब लिखी है द वैनिशिंग, ये बहुत टाइमली बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट किताब है। सबसे अच्छी बात इस किताब की ये है कि देश में हमारे जो प्रकृति है, वाइल्ड लाइफ है, फॉरेस्ट है, उन सबको वो हाईलाइट करती है, दिखाती है कि कितना कुदरत हम में है, हमारे बीच है, और कैसे उस कुदरत का कनेक्शन हमारे इकोनॉमी से जुड़ा हुआ है। सो द अम्बिलिकल लिंक बिटवीन इकोलॉजी एंड इकोनॉमी, और कैसे हम, क्योंकि दुनिया के सबसे पॉपुलेटेड कंट्री बनने से ज़्यादा दूर नहीं है, कितना महत्वपूर्ण है हमें इस वातावरण को बचाना, इसकी सुरक्षा करना, क्योंकि इन्हीं पर निर्भर है हमारा पानी का सोर्स। तो it's a very important book. I was very happy to be here. The NHS is, I mean, it's a historical, it's an amazing location. It's a venue that has seen the greatest conservationists in the country. And this is actually second time मैं यहाँ आई हूँ। पहले भी मैं यहाँ आई थी एक और conservationist की किताब लॉन्च करने के लिए, और I think as a person who belongs to the film industry, ये मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ी बात है कि जो सीरियस कंजर्वेशन में लोग फोकस करते हैं, जो असली काम कर रहे हैं, वो मेरे बात को मानते हैं, मुझे वो सम्मान दे रहे हैं। ये मेरे लिए बहुत गर्व की बात है।
हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि इस बुक के थ्रू हम वाइल्ड लाइफ में एक स्टेप और आगे जा सकते हैं।
हम इस बुक के थ्रू हमारे जो लॉज हैं, हमारे जो गाइडलाइंस है, हमारे जो प्रोटेक्शन एजेंसीज़ हैं, वाइल्ड लाइफ बोर्ड्स हैं, उन सबको और बढ़ावा दे सकते हैं और सपोर्ट दे सकते हैं। एंड आई रियली होप कि जितने लोग गवर्नमेंट में हैं, पॉलिटिशियंस हैं, ये किताब पढ़े ज़रूर, द वैनिशिंग।
रिसर्च करना पड़ता है क्योंकि आप भी वाइल्ड लाइफ से काफ़ी जुड़ी हुई है, काफ़ी अर्से से रिसर्च करना पड़ता है रिसर्च के बारे में।
आई थिंक अगर सीखना चाहो तो सीखने के लिए बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ मिल जाती हैं। कंजर्वेशन और वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन में मेरी रुचि है। मैं बहुत ख़ास करके इसमें दिलचस्पी रखती हूँ और कोशिश यही करती हूँ कि जितना पढ़ सकूँ, जितना सीख सकूँ। लेकिन इतना कुछ है सीखने को कि हर रोज़ कुछ नया सीखने को ही मिलता है।
मैम, देखा जाए तो मान्यता के रोल में मान्यता दत्त का संजय की जो बायोपिक बन रही है, उसकी शूटिंग भी किस तरह का एक्सपीरियंस रहा आपका?
राजकुमार रिसर्च, जब आप राजकुमार हिरानी जैसे डायरेक्टर के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, ज़्यादा रिसर्च नहीं करना पड़ता है। वो इतना उम्दा लिखते हैं कि बस उनका लिखा हुआ हम ठीक कर लें तो बहुत है। मैं बहुत खुश हूँ। राजकुमार हिरानी इज़ वन ऑफ माई फेवरेट डायरेक्टर्स इन द कंट्री दैट आई एम वर्किंग इन हिज फिल्म, एंड वर्किंग विद रणबीर कपूर वाज अमेजिंग। थैंक यू।